Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Astrological Intentions. I am your host, Alex Reevy, along with the ready retreater herself, Sandy Reevy.
I'm getting ready.
It is episode 335, the week of December 23rd. Let's get right into it. In the transits, December 24th, Christmas Eve, Tuesday, Jupiter retrograde square Saturn.
This is the second of three passes over a long time.
December 26th, Thursday, Mercury opposing Jupiter retrograde.
This is the third of three. Those difficulties? ?
December 27th, Friday, Mercury square Saturn.
This is the third of three. Be sure now.
And December 28th, Saturday, Venus square Uranus retrograde.
Give love and space.
And on the horizon, we have our annual free event, the Year Ahead Astrology Forecast and Raffle. Make sure to claim your free raffle ticket, and if you wanted to get extra chance, buy more. Then we also have our CWS webinar for Mars retrograde and our 2025 Mexico retreat. Then in our house, we're going to just discuss about our weeks coming up and what to look forward to. That is all. Stay tuned for this episode of Astrological Intentions.
I say go do you. Now travel far, share your stories and earn your stars. It's you. Say you are the one, you will answer to when this life is done. Don't waste a minute, jump in the river. Wash yourself clean so you can deliver you.
Hello, ready retreater.
I'm preparing, I'm packing. You see my pile of things going that way. That one's going to Mexico.
Nice.
And then all my paperwork here is going to Greece and Tuscany.
Mm-hmm.
2 retreats coming up in the fall.
Right. And it is episode 335, the week of December 23rd. Thank you so much for listening into our podcast, and let's get right into the transits. So we have December 24th, also Christmas Eve, Tuesday, Jupiter retrograde square Saturn.
Yeah, these are the 2 big societal planets. The Jupiter wants to expand, see bigger vision, see new horizons. And Saturn is the restrictive, making sure things are done properly, kind of the more conservative way. Maybe the, like the elder way
right.
to do things. And they're at a square. So this is, kind of over this long time, they are going to meet up 3 times because Jupiter is retrograde. Now, just where they are in the sky, Jupiter in the Gemini area of the sky, and the Saturn is in the Pisces area of the sky. So there is this 90-degree angle, the square, the stress, the conflict possibly of trying to get big and realizing you can't, or trying to conserve and realizing there's just too much going on. But the first one hit here just recently, August 19th. And August 19th really is where aims of society are at an impasse, right? Mm-hmm. And, we might have been noticing that during the election, all of the advertisements going up and, those types of things of really kind of changing. Now we're having the second. And this could be a time where we're making a temporary hard decision, right? It's kind of like here we are at Christmas Eve. You may not have found the perfect gift for everyone on your list, right? It was like having that this but that, like having a conversation with self is like, I have this idea, but they already have it. I have this, but that costs too much money. They have this, but it's out of stock, right? It's always like, ta-da, oh, right, that kind of thing. So, and this is a time to, what we call make that temporary change, the temporary fix, call something in new. It may not stick, but, it's kind of like throwing spaghetti on a wall. Some of it will, but some of it won't. But the last one that we're going to get in this configuration of this episode's, this long episodal, this aims of society conversation we're having finished June 15th. And that'll be the third and final pass, right? And then these two planets Jupiter will move way faster than almost more than half the speed. And the next time they'll come together will be in a sextile. And that won't be for another 2 years, but that will still be in a nicer position than right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got a long haul ahead.
Yeah.
So let's move into December 26th, Thursday, Mercury opposing Jupiter retrograde.
Yeah, no, this is the third of 3 passes. So there's a lot of re-communication here, realigning things. And so we could say, hey, those difficulties that you were considering or things that you were deciding, I'm not so sure, I'm not connected to it wholeheartedly, are probably no longer a thing. It's probably that you can get your move on now, right? Because Mercury has looked at all of the possibilities. Jupiter is retrograde. Jupiter is in Mercury's sign, Gemini. And so they've really switched spaces here. And so Mercury's having to see the big picture and Jupiter's having to see the little details. They don't like doing what they're having to do right now.
They're not in their wheelhouses. Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of about like balance your views about what's happening and share it, right? Because there is this tell people what you've been conflicted about. Tell people what you've been considering or reconsidering or wanting to analyze. You may want to spit it out so people can understand, like, oh, why have you been quiet, or why haven't we been able to get a hold of you, or why have you been kind of, cold-shouldered. This is happening for everybody, right? So this would be a good time to share your views of things.
And December 27th, Friday, Mercury squares Saturn, the third of 3.
It's the third of 3 because, of course, when we saw at the beginning of the week, we were just talking about, that Tuesday that Jupiter is squaring Saturn, right? Jupiter and Saturn together, making an aspect. And Mercury swoops in, and hits Jupiter opposing first. One, and then it's going to boom square the other. And so this is the third of 3. And again, this works hand in hand with this whole earlier part of the week or things that you have been considering. And this is like, you can be sure now. You can be sure on what you say, on what you do, on what you sign. This kind of is a way to figure out a way forward. Although I do say this, that Saturn here is kind of make no demands. You can make promises, like signing a contract, but you can't make demands, right? Like you promise you're going to do this, right? Like, because you can't demand to get a promise from anyone if they're not willing to give you the promise.
Right.
So that, if that at all was part of the conclusion that you've been dealing with, you're sure now that you can't place demands.
Right. And it's never nice to place those demands on anyone.
Right. They have to be willing and wanting.
Right. And that's how you want anyone to come into an agreement. Yeah. All right. So December 28th, Saturday, Venus square Uranus retrograde.
Right. Now this is a square, but it is Venus. Right. And Venus is in charge of Taurus, where Uranus is. And if we looked at the modern rulers of the zodiac signs, Venus is in Aquarius. So we could say the modern ruler of Aquarius is Uranus. So what this is called would be a modern mutual reception. And this is at 23 degrees. And so this is like give love and a little bit of freedom, a little bit of space, right? Let your significant other choose the thing, choose the meal, choose the restaurant, choose the activity, choose the plan, right? Let your loved one make that. Because if you're both, and if you think about this, if you're both doing this, we've all been there. Well, what do you want to eat? Well, I don't know. What do you want to eat? Well, where do you want to go? Well, I don't know. Where do you want to go? Right? That kind of thing that nothing happens. Nothing gets ordered up. So you need to step into the middle space here, right? Step into the middle space of, hey, We had pizza for lunch. Let's have something else for dinner. Or you pick lunch, I'll pick dinner. You pick where we're going, and I'll tell you what time we're leaving or what we're wearing. Right? Like finding a middle space, because if you're going to, it's a square, so we have to be cautious here that if you're just trying to poke a sleeping bear, we are in winter. If you're trying to poke a sleeping bear, you just might be doing it because you want attention.
Probably. Yeah.
Right?
That happens.
Right?
Right.
So that's not the way to use this aspect, right? Come to a middle ground, be different, be unusual, have that space, love, and freedom and respect that, loved ones have. Right?
So that is our week ahead in the transits. So let's move on to the horizon, where we have a very special announcement. December 28th, this Saturday, we have our free event. This is the year ahead, where Sandy and Susan go through the entirety of the year, all the big transits that you need to be aware of in that astrology forecast, and there's going to be tons of raffle prizes.
Woo-woo.
So you do get a free raffle ticket, and that link is in the show notes. So if you want it, or you can just head over to intentionbeads.com and search year ahead. That's where you're going to see the tickets available. You get your first one is free, and all raffle tickets are $1. So you can get as many raffle tickets as you like and win all of the prizes. So.
And what do we do with those raffle tickets? We put them in a wheel.
Right.
And that's so much fun.
Yeah.
And they rotate round and round
right,
and round.
Right.
And there'll be some nice gifts.
Yes.
Readings, some products. Yeah.
So also we have our CWS webinar. This was the Mars Retrograde webinar that Sandy and Susan popped up on the Patreon community page. If you are interested in checking that out, head over there. You can buy it outright, or you can sign on for a membership and get all of the webinar library for free. Then January 4th is Sandy's first retreat of 2025, and that is the Mexico retreat, the Basics of Astrology and Human Design. Special guest Christine Flowers, who's going to be taking on the human design aspect of the retreat, and it's going to be a really wonderful time.
It's, human design is the new kind of catchword going on in the learning how you can better self-develop, right? And it's really spot on. I've been learning this, not to teach it, but learning it for my own tips and tricks and tools, right? And so that's what we're doing, is giving you all those tips and tricks.
Right. And let's finish up this episode today in our house, where it's the holiday season. We are so excited to get on the road. It's going to be kind of like a domino effect. We got the Christmas plans in Cincinnati, Ohio. Then you head back to Chicago for a little bit of time to jump over to Mexico, as I'm coming back from Mexico. I have New Year's plans with my fiance and his family, and then jumping back out once you arrive back to
Celebrate Your Life,
which is a new event that's going to be happening this year.
Right. The Mishka Productions, who run Celebrate Your Life, or the CYL, love this organization. Liz Dawn has been running this with her mother, rest her soul. But Liz has been running this for 20-something years, and we've been doing this event several times a year until
COVID.
We stopped. And this is a first for her, that she is now opening doors for these large groups, and of course we have a vending spot. So, hey, it's January 15th, 16th, 17th. There are some seats still available. Dr. Sue Morter, who I adore. There's other speakers there, but I'm really excited to hear and listen to what she has to say.
Right. And this is going to be a really intimate version of the CYL this year. They are not opening up to over 700 people. So it's going to be, usually I think they're around 1,500 to 2,000. But this one's going to be really intimate, very cool. You're going to have opportunities to really engage deeply with everybody, not only the vendors, the speakers, and the fellow attendees. So it's going to be a really wonderful event. And of course, we would love to see you there. So check it out. I will throw that link in the show notes for you.
Right, and go to the CYL, celebrateyourlife.com, and check out Greg Braden's going to be there, Dr. Bruce Lipton. So really some really good, informative.
And very inspiring. It's always an inspiring time. We love going because we just feed off of everyone's energy, and it revs us up. We get excited. So just as a heads up, this holiday season and beyond, this beginning of the year, is going to be a busy one for us. So we need to be recording a couple of our future podcasts. So they're going to be short ones, and then once we're post those big events, we will be back on track with our regular episode lengths.
Right.
So, yeah, that is going to be...
Well, I have one add-on.
Sure.
You told me today that Teddy Swims has a Christmas album. And, you know, he is one of my new favorites.
Right.
So I've been playing that this morning. And if anybody gets a chance and you're tired of... it's the same classics.
Right.
But it's with just a different voice.
Oh, and he kills it. I was listening to it in the car today because I had just discovered it. And I had to, as soon as I was at a stoplight, I had to text you and say, "A Christmas Miracle," because I remember when we were playing Teddy Swims, you were playing all of, like, again and again and again.
Because
like,
he's repeat. New. Yeah.
And I said, you know what would be wonderful if Teddy Swims did a Christmas album. And I said this back in July.
June or July, yeah.
And it's a Christmas miracle. He has a whole Christmas album. I think there's like maybe 8 or 9 songs. It's not a long one, but his voice is awesome, and it's just a cool play on those old classics.
Right. And I have an update too, you know, on our last podcast that you gave a shout out for the jazz, Spotify Jazz Christmas.
Yeah, it was like Christmas cocktail jazz.
Yeah, and I heard from one of our listeners in a foreign country who, because there's no words, right, that she was having a little holiday party at her office, and she decided to ask Spotify for that.
Oh, that's great. That is so good.
Right, because it's a foreign, foreign country,
and
they don't speak English as much over there.
Right. So, and it also makes sense because, especially when you're in like office or networking space, you really don't want to be confused by a bunch of singing. It is nice to have just the music and the melody and the peacefulness in the background. So cool. I was hoping that somebody shouted that out or used it.
So. And I got photos. Very
cool.
Well done. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening in to this week's episode. We are going to be back at you next week. Have a wonderful holiday season. Bye-bye, everybody.
Happy holidays.
I say go do you. Now travel far, share your stories and earn your scars. It's you. Say you are the one you will answer to when this life is done. Don't waste a minute, jump in the river. Wash yourself clean so you can deliver you. The story of you, the story of you.